Okay, so the bears have infiltrated the house while Frosty and his goons are outside. Exactly. Chapter 12. What happened to the snowman? Everyone stared at the big white bears in horror. No one had thought of the chimney. What a pity they hadn't stopped it up. I'm going to let the magic snowman in, said the first white bear. Then the father bear spoke up in a very sorrowful, oh my God, I did not know this was a hard word. Sorrowful voice. Then the father bear spoke up in a very sorrowful voice. Cousin, why are we enemies? We have always been good friends until now. The 4 white bears looked at him, and at the mother bear and the baby bear, in sudden amazement. They rushed at them with loud oomph noises. Joe thought they were going to fight the 3 bears, and he took up a jug from the table to help his friends. But no, the white bears were not going to fight. They were hugging the 3 bears as tightly as they could. And to the children's amazement, tears were pouring down their fuzzy faces. We didn't know it was you, said the white bears. Why, cousins, we would have never fought you if only we had known you were the 3 bears we love so much. There, said the mother bear, wiping the tears of a white bear off of her fur. It's all right. But for goodness sake, tell the other bears we're friends. We don't want the front door battered down. Damn it, I thought I got it. Sorry, this is embarrassing. We don't want the front door battered down. Moonface opened the door and yelled out of it. Bears, it's all right. This is the cottage of your cousins, the 3 bears. We're friends. But the white bears didn't answer or come in. Instead, a big white shape came up and squeezed through the door. The magic snowman. A chill fell over the little room. The white bears were frightened of him, for he was their master. He shut the door and glared at everyone out of his stone eyes. So even my own bears have gone over to the enemy, he said. Oh ho, and what will you say if I turn you into ice and snow, everyone? Nobody said anything. But to Bessie's surprise, Moonface shut the door and then went to the fire. He piled on 3 great logs and winked at Bessie. The snowman took up a white bear by the scruff of the neck and shook him. So you found your voices, did you? He said. Didn't I tell you that you were only to say oomph and not speak a word to anyone? I won't have bears that talk. He picked up another white bear and shook him. I feel so bad for these bears, oh my God. He picked up another white bear and shook him. So you are friends with my enemies, are you? He said. The room became very hot. Joe took off his coat. So did the others. Moonface slyly put on another log. The fire crackled and shot great flames up the chimney. Fanny wished she could take off everything. She was so hot. Okay, you can't put that in the book. Jesus. I know what she means, though. Whatever does Moonface think he is doing making the room so hot, she thought crossly. But just as she was about to tell him to put the guard round the fire, he winked at her. And she said nothing. Moonface must have some queer plan that he's carrying out. God, she's stupid. Everyone's stupid. Also, Moonface, goated moment. The snowman went on, grumbling and threatening. Everyone listened and said nothing. Moonface poked the fire, and it blazed up higher. Now this is what I'm going to do, said the magic snowman. I'm going to take this nice little cottage for my own, and I shall live here. All of you others can live in a snow house and freeze for all I care. You will wait on me and do whatever I say. Yes, said everybody. They all knew now what Moonface's plan was. He meant to make the room so hot that the magic snowman would melt. Clever old Moonface. A little trickle of water began to run from the snowman's broad white back. I thought it was going to be like down his face. A little trickle of water began to run from the snowman's broad white back, which was near the fire. Moonface pointed at it secretly and grinned. Fanny thought Moonface's beaming face looked so funny that she began to giggle. She really couldn't help it. Goldilocks giggled too, and stuffed her handkerchief into her small mouth. The baby bear gave a high squeak of a giggle, and then wept bitterly because the snowman cuffed him. How dare you laugh, shouted the snowman angrily. Outside, all of you. Outside. This is my cottage now, and not one of you shall stay here. They all crowded outside except Moonface, who crouched behind a big chair, determined not to leave the fire in case it burnt low. Outside, it was bitterly cold. The white bears quickly dug up the snow and made a high wall to shelter the others from the wind. They crouched there, cuddling close to one another for warmth. The big white bears wrapped their furry arms round the children and warmed them beautifully. Joe thought they were very kind indeed. They waited, and they waited. They could see smoke pouring from the chimney of the cottage, and they knew that Moonface must be keeping up the fire. The bears oomphed every now and again, and the children whispered to one another. Then, suddenly, the door of the cottage was flung open, and Moonface stood there, his big face beaming like a full moon. You can come back now, he shouted. It's quite safe. They all crowded back to the cottage. Joe looked for the snowman, but he was gone. There was nothing to show that he had been there, except for a very large puddle of water. He melted very quickly, said Moonface. He may have been very magic and very powerful, but he was just made of snow after all. So he melted like a real snowman on a sunny morning. The polar bears oomphed with delight. They had hated being servants of the snowman. Yeah, melted like a bitch, said Moonface. We'll say goodbye to you now, they said to the three bears. This cottage is cozy, but it's too hot for us. Come and see us again whenever you like. Goodbye. Everyone hugged them goodbye, and Joe felt quite sad to see them go. Moonface shut the door after them. Now we'll get back home, he said. I'm a bit tired of this land. Come on, bears, help me to get the cottage back safely. He didn't do the same magic as before. He drew a circle on the floor in blue chalk, and the three bears stood inside holding paws. Moonface danced round them, singing strings of queer magic words. A wind rose up, and the cottage rocked. Darkness came down, and for a moment, no one could see anything at all. He accidentally summoned Cthulhu. And this book takes a crazy turn. Then gradually the darkness went, and the wind blew no more. The sun shone warmly in at the window. Bessie gave a shout. I say, we're back in that little woody corner where we first saw the cottage. And it's daytime now, not nighttime. Well, we've been having this adventure all night long, said Moonface with a laugh. It's sunrise now. The night has gone. You'd better hurry off home, children, or you'll be scolded for leaving your beds at night. They hugged Goldilocks and shook hands with the three bears. We'll come back and see you sometime, said Fanny. Thank you so much for all your help. Goldilocks and the bears stood at the door and waved goodbye as Moonface hurried the three children away down the lane to catch the train back to the Enchanted Wood. It wasn't long before they had got to the station, waited for a train, slid off the roof, and settled down in a carriage. When they got to the Enchanted Wood, they said goodbye to Moonface, and Fanny gave him a kiss for being such help. He was so pleased he went red all over his enormous face, and Bessie laughed. You look like the setting sun now, she said. You really ought to be called Sunface. Goodbye, and see you soon, I hope, called Moonface. Off went the children home and got into bed, just about an hour, before their mother called them to get up. My goodness, they were sleepy all that day. All right, I'll read 10 more pages. Momentary break. Who has pink eye? Oh, okay. Yeah, dumb icy bitch. And Moonface our goat. Also, I think one of the stories coming up is like I remember like thinking it was really funny when I was a kid. So we'll see how it goes. Oh, and the next chapter is called, to pique your interest. Shit. I need a better bookmark. Okay, well, it's called something. I think it's called, like, Moonface Gets Into Trouble or something like that. tasted like shit. All right. Here we go. Moonface gets into trouble, chapter 13. The children didn't really feel that they wanted to go to any of the lands at the top of the faraway tree for a while. For a little while. It was a bit too exciting to climb through the clouds and see what was above them. But they did want to see their friends in the tree, especially dear old Moonface. So the very next time they had a day to themselves, they set off through the enchanted wood to the faraway tree. There was no rope to guide them this time. It was only at night that the rope was swung through the boughs to help the wood folk up and down. The children began to climb up. Every door and window in the tree seemed to be shut today, and not a soul was about. It was quite dull climbing up the tree. Even when they reached Silky's house, that was shut too, and they couldn't hear Silky singing or anything. They knocked, but there was no answer. So on they went to Moonface's, keeping a good lookout for Mother Washalot's dirty water to come swishing down on them. But not even her water appeared that day. It all seemed very quiet and peaceful. They reached Moonface's house at the top of the tree and rapped at his door. Nobody opened. But inside, they could quite well hear somebody crying. It was very mysterious. It doesn't sound like Moonface, said Fanny, puzzled. Let's go in and see who it is. So they opened the door and went in. And it was Silky, sitting in a corner, crying bitterly. I'm gonna rip the book in half on accident. Another illustration. Quite lovely. Yeah, it's very ominous, actually. I know it's a children's book for, actual toddlers, but very ominous. Some parts are spooky. So they opened the door and went in, and it was Silky, sitting in a corner, crying bitterly. "Whatever's the matter?" cried Joe. "And where's old Moonface?" asked Fanny. "Oh dear," sobbed Silky. "Moonface has been thrown up into some dreadfully queer land at the top of the faraway tree because he was rude to old Mr. What's-his-name down below." That's assault, brother. "What? That old man who's always sitting in a chair and snoring?" said Bessie, remembering that they hadn't seen him that day. "Whatever did Moonface do?" "Oh, he was very naughty." I just remembered. Okay, good lord. Oh, he was very naughty, wept Silky. "And so was I. You see, we heard Mr. What's-his-name snoring as usual, and we crept up to him and saw that his mouth was wide open. And, oh dear, we popped a handful of acorns into it, and then he woke up and he spluttered and popped, and then he caught sight of us hiding behind a branch." "Goodness, did you really dare to do such a naughty thing?" cried Bessie. "No wonder he was angry." Moonface is dreadfully bad sometimes, said Silky, wiping her eyes. He makes me naughty too. Well, we ran away up the tree to Moonface's house. I got in safely, but Moonface didn't. And Mr. What's-his-name caught hold of him and threw him right through the hole in the clouds into the land that's there today. Good gracious. Well, can't he get back? Said Fanny in alarm. He can climb down the ladder, surely, back into the tree. Yes, he could, said Silky. But you see, Mr. What's-his-name is sitting on the ladder, ready to catch him, spank him, and throw him back. So what's the use of that? I think there will be a lot more spanking in the book. I hope we can all, stay calm. And what land is up there today? Asked Joe. That's actually his name, is what's his name? Actually, maybe even Old Mister. Just like Young Man Daniels. Well, what land is up there today? Asked Joe. The land of the old saucepan man, said Silky. He lives there in his cottage with his pots and pans and is quite harmless. But you see, Mr. What's-his-name will sit on the ladder till the land swings round and another one comes. Then Moonface won't be able to get back, and he might be lost forever. Oh dear, said Joe in dismay. And the girls stared at Silky in despair, for they were very fond of old Moonface now. Is there anything we can do? Asked Joe at last. Well, there's just one hope, said Silky, fluffing out her lovely golden hair. The old saucepan man is a great friend of Mr. What's-his-name's. If he knew that his land was at the top of the faraway tree today, he might come along and have a cup of tea with Mr. What's-his-name. And then Moonface could slip down the ladder and get back here. Oh, said the children, and looked at one another. They could quite well see that this meant that one or all of them were going up the ladder again. Going up that ladder again, and getting into another queer land. I'll go, said Bessie. After all, Moonface helped us last time. We must help him now. We'll all three go, said Joe. So they set off up the topmost branch to the little ladder. There they found Mr. What's-his-name sitting reading his newspaper and smoking an enormous pipe that sent clouds of smoke out of the hole in the clouds. Can we pass, please? Asked Bessie timidly. No, you can't, said Mr. What's-his-name rudely. Well, we've got to, said Joe. So if we tread on your feet, you must excuse us. Mr. What's-his-name simply wouldn't move. He really was a very cross old man. He slapped each of the children as they squeezed past him. This is what old people were like, honestly. He slapped each of the children as they squeezed past him, and they were very glad when they had climbed through the hole and were in the land above. So, this is the land of the saucepan man, said Fanny when they were standing on the grass safely. What a funny little land. It was. It was an island floating in what seemed a sea of white. It really wasn't much bigger than a large field. Bessie went to the edge and looked over. Gracious, she said in alarm. It's like a cliff, and the sea is a big white cloud. Don't go too near the edge, anybody. It wouldn't be nice to fall off. Hi, hi, suddenly yelled an excited voice. They turned round and saw Moonface waving to them, running hard towards them. Hi, how did you get here? Hello, we came to see what we could do for you, said Joe. We heard what had happened. Old Mr. What's-His-Name is sitting on the ladder still, waiting for you. But Silky says this is the land of the Saucepan Man, who's a great friend of Mr. What's-His-Name, so we've come to see him and ask him if he'll go and have tea with his friend. And then you can slip down safely and go home. Ooh, good, said Moonface joyfully. Jolly good show. I didn't know what land this was, and goodness me, I was afraid of falling off it. It's so small. Where do you suppose the old Saucepan Man lives? Uh-oh. Okay. Where do you suppose he lives? I can't imagine, said Joe, looking round. All he could see was a very large stretch of grass, with no house and nobody in sight at all. Where in the world could the Saucepan Man live? We'll have to go carefully all around this funny little land, said Bessie. His house must be somewhere. But we'd better hurry, for you never know when this land will swing away from the faraway tree. And we don't want to live in this queer little place forever. They began to walk round the land. Presently, they came to a cliff that was not quite so steep as the others. They peered over it. Joe pointed to some things stuck in the cliff. Whatever are those? He said. They look like some sort of steps down the cliffside, said Bessie. They're saucepans, said Fanny suddenly. Yeah, saucepans with their handles stuck into the cliff and the pan part to tread on. How queer. Queer, queer, queer. This queer, that's queer, you're queer, we're queer. Like, queer all the time. Jeez. How queer. Well, this must be the way down to the Saucepan Man's house, said Joe, excited. Come on, be careful, girls, or you may fall and roll right off the edge of this land. So, very carefully, they began to climb down the cliff, treading on the saucepans stuck into the earth. It really was rather funny. Sure it wasn't queer. It really was rather funny. They got down at last, and then they heard a very curious noise indeed. It was the sound of crashings and bangings and clatterings and clangings. The children were quite alarmed. The noise is coming from just round the corner, said Joe. They crept very cautiously to the corner and peeped around. There they saw a crooked little house with a saucepan for a chimney. The noise came from inside the house. The children crept to the window and looked in. And inside, they saw the strangest little man they had ever seen, dancing the strangest dance. He had saucepans and kettles hung all over him. He wore a saucepan for a hat, and he crashed 2 saucepans together as he danced. Do you think he's dangerous? Said Joe in a whisper. All right, I have to pee again.